by the Pantheon ban, the Kalista, the Taliyah. Maokai, of course, the pick that has looked the best for SkewMond at this tournament in the 2 games that he's played it.
Ooh, that Lee ban.
I mean, very few players in the world do you have to ban this champion against. It's probably just Canyon, actually.
Yeah.
It's probably one player in the world, and his name is Canyon.
Yeah, it kind of depends. We've seen Owner have great performance on it as well, but Canyon definitely had a very big performance recently against Humble Life. I wonder if they're going to repeat the Nidalee ban as well. If you're going to go for the Lee, I think the Nidalee also feels like it should be within the realm of expectation. If you ban the Nidalee, I'm also not sure what Gen.G is going to be looking for. The downside of that, obviously, that Rumble will remain open. It's a big Gwen instead.
Okay. Do they want to instantly lock the Rumble? It's not something G2 are known for playing. A lot of teams are willing to risk giving it up. Gen.G's first game strategy was a lot of blind pick solo laners. This time it looks like it will be the Vi. Reliable upfront engage.
Currently 0 and 5. Obviously, we're not going to be fooled by small sample sizes, but the champion has received continuous nerfs, and more importantly, what Vi does is very, very straightforward. It does feel like a champion that has a single thing. Going in, being able to find consistent backline access. So drafting counter dive does mean that there are a lot of tools available. We've seen the Wukong be really strong into it as well, both from a clone perspective, being able to get away from her easily, but also the fact that Cyclone just kind of ruins her day. It's going to be the pickup here for SkewMond.
And we'll see what the early game looks like. Vi, Wukong, both champions known to farm to level 6. Canyon, of course, with this kind of setup, expect for him to have that big impact. The Nunu's hovered once again. Some highlight moments in plans from SkewMond. Not necessarily the great ones, but lots of views on them nonetheless. In the end, it's going to be the Senna. Something that G2 have prioritized a number of times. Last time it was with Tahm Kench. So a very stable champion. Hans-Sama in that VODS in the previous game, putting up massive damage numbers, kind of free to just take pot shots with all the dive present on his team. It looks like G2 might want to replicate some of that with the Senna, although it will take a bit more time to come online.
It does also help with some of the early brawling that I imagine you will be doing with that Wukong. So it makes me wonder if they want to go towards something that plays well together with that Wukong in mid. Kind of depends, I think, on what chovy locks in here. The no-brainer is obviously Ahri. That Vi-Ahri combination is something that we've seen so many times. Has just been an extremely solid 2v2, but I actually like this. I think the Alistar makes a ton of sense because with that Senna, we've already seen the Senna Alistar come through. And it was also banned on the side of Gen.G in the last game. Not gonna want to give that one up.
I like prioritizing that proactive engage pick and also taking something away from Labrov, as you highlighted there. And Gen.G did take the gamble. They prioritized the Vi over the Rumble. G2 did not contest it. It'll be a return to the Tahm Kench that we saw in plans. Champion that can mitigate so much of what the Vi does. Make sure to protect that key carry. And we know if the game goes late enough, Senna can really just take over those fights. But already Gen.G, a lot more proactive tools than they had in the previous game. There's no Braum, no Jhin. You don't have to wait for 4 auto attacks to find that CC. The Alistar and Vi, much more immediate effect.
The counter engage is kind of crazy though, again on G2, and I think that was something that they used with great efficiency. That's a very good Coster Jhin fan sign there. But you already have so many tools to keep the Senna safe. Wukong can obviously play far forward, but can also fulfill a slightly more defensive role. We do see that the combination of that Vi and Rumble obviously is really tough to play into, even with a Kench. As long as you get any form of CC or the Rumble, I think you're always going to be happy. Alistar obviously provides that as well. Ornn, no-brainer. Seen it played into the Rumble a lot. I wonder if they also want to go for the Galio, which has been another pick that we've seen picked into it very often, as the Ahri and Annie both taken off the board and both pair insanely well with the Vi.
Definitely do. You mentioned the Ahri before, right? Opting to take something away from Labrov instead of prioritizing conventional power pick. Someone, of course, on the side of Gen.G is going to be forced to blind. Multiple members in this context. His top lane is already locked in, and now it's the Sylas. Taken away from Caps. Respect to both the Rumble and the Alistar ultimate that could be taken away.
Alistar in particular, just not very fun to play into. And Also feeling very likely that chovy is going to have to go for a blind pick here, so doesn't want to get hit with a Sylas counter pick. So I imagine Broken Blade's champion does come through, and it is the Galio, not on the ban list. Really the type of lane where you are just looking to absorb the punches, but again, just adds more safety, more counter engage to the G2 comp.
And a nice setup for G2 in the sense that Ornn and Galio, you can ban both away to get a nice matchup for the Rumble, but you risk that Sylas.
Yeah.
Put in a position where couldn't take everything off the board. More AP, more team fighting, upfront burst damage. Gen.G in a much better position to just pull the trigger and force these fights with this Aurora.
I wonder what Ruler wants to go towards here. I've seen this man be known for many an AD carry, but not necessarily quite as diverse as some of his opponents.
You don't believe this, right? I'm not alone.
I'm not believing it. So this makes way more sense.
Yeah, I wanted to believe it. It's the Jhin. Okay, so utility, and this is a classic combo, iconic combo over years of League of Legends. Jhin, Rumble together, lay down the carpet, fall up with the curtains.
Playing Jhin into Wukong though. That's definitely something that is very scary as the Ryze comes through, so even more ability to impact side lanes. And I gotta say, I think it's kind of a smash hit from G2 again. Matchups are feeling good, but most importantly, Gen.G are not really gonna have a choice but to play very, very aggressively, very far forward into Galio, into a kiting back Senna, and into a Tahm Kench. And given how the early game of game number 1 played out, I think Gen.G with this draft is going to be looking to try and secure early leads. This would have been game 1. I think we would have been a lot less doubtful, but with G2 having a game one performance like that, makes me wonder how this second draft is going to play out, Drakos.
Some weaknesses from the expected tournament favorite does breed a bit of hope for the side of G2. And as you highlighted compositionally, once again, they've managed to put themselves in a position where Caps has that champion with agency. We've seen Ryze already in this tournament be successful for him. Yone was another option. Tristana was the other pick that I really felt like he was able to impact the map. Now, getting ready for game 2. And of course, while you're watching the action unfold, keep an eye out for exclusive drops just for tuning in to MSI. All you need to do is be logged in and watching on lolesports.com for a chance to score some of that in-game loot. Don't just let it be the G2 fans making away like bandits today so far.
And we see Gen.G. They've been in deficits before, in series, even in the most recent one, but I imagine they got to be reeling at least a little bit from the uppercut thrown out by Gen.G, or G2 rather, in that game number 1.
Definitely not the expected result. Again, clean 3-0. Was a bit of the expectation is some aggressive level 1 trading here.
That's a level 1 Alistar.
Vulnerable target. Has gone glacial, so some solid damage reduction. But of course, reminder, Gen.G, LCK first seed. And all this stuff, all this information is important. Chovy eating minions.
Canyon in his classic.
When you asked for that, I didn't think it would be so creepy.
It's good. You know, he just every minion he can find. And in game number 1, clearly not enough. As Gen.G, the top half obviously unchanged from last year. Ruler and Duro replacing Pace and Lahens. Ruler swapping sides with Pace, of course, currently on JDG, where he was last year. Duro coming in hot from Live Sandbox. And in this game number 2, the early fights from Gen.G are going to be a really big deal. There is, as mentioned, a good amount of counter engage for G2, but I do think that compared to game number 1, the spikes feel like they will naturally come in way later. Obviously, Wukong spikes well on 6, and there are some capabilities if you get the early CC chain with the Realm Warp, or with the Ryze getting to a lane and then Labrov being able to maybe hit some of that engage Kench power. But both Ryze and Senna generally do need a good amount of time. That's a level 2 hit earlier here. Duro needs to be a little careful.
Very close. Of course, Labrov has already stacked up 3 of an acquired taste. Ruler not quite going to be locked up. Root connecting onto Duro. Find the knock-up initially onto Labrov. So good healing. Tahm Kench base stats are incredibly powerful early, but that 4-shot ruler, extra healing coming in, will be traded for the barrier. So 2 summoners to 1, Gen.G, nice little early trade.
Labrov hits that W. Might have been a different look, but ruler is able to sidestep it. But I do think this is the type of lane where you're expected to just kind of hang back anyway. Jhin, obviously, very strong in the laning phase, as chovy as expected on this Aurora, particularly with the electrocute. Going to be feeling really good early. Once Caps get to the point where he can just power clear these waves, going to be a lot easier for him. Doesn't really have to interact nearly as much as both junglers this time around, pathing towards the same side of the map, but don't necessarily think that there is too much to be done. These trades, though, keep going the way of Gen.G, but nothing too crazy. I also don't know if you really want to risk trying to go for a dive. It looks like Kiin at least is going to threaten it.
Broken Blade keeping pressure on the top side. Well highlighted, Cronicler. A lot of members playing down towards bot. Of course, Canyon. Wasn't clear to me if he was spotted or just a bit of a predict with the pings coming out from G2. But similar to last game, pretty controlled early on. Unsurprising given the junglers. Broken Blade much more comfortable in the early stages of this matchup on the top side than he was in the previous one. Now Gen.G looking to re-dive. Knock up there onto Hans. Q follow, ball breaker in the first blood. Gen.G make it look easy. And it's a nice commitment from Canyon. Lets one wave go by. SkewMond leaves, he comes again.
Ooh, that's pre-6 Wukong though. Not quite the same amount of power. Kiin is a little low though.
Kiin careful to get his damage out before he overheats. The taunt, solid, good damage. Flashing to safety. Broken Blade chunked out.
Uh-oh.
Won't quite fall, but those minions doing a hell of a lot of damage. Kiin.
Canyon's on his way. He still has flash.
Oh, no. The flash from Broken Blade. He might just want to save it. Justice punch out. Able to make it through. Disaster for G2 in the first sequence of play. Not able to find the cross map. And this first tower dive just looks so effortless.
Very straightforward there. Duro gets taken low thanks to the root connecting, but there's just too much CC. As you can see, the vibe's good there as the TP comes in. Canyon maybe in trouble.
Canyon. Labrov just able to hit the edge on the knockup. Canyon still only level 4, flashing over the wall. Knockback onto Broken Blade. Duro using him as a taxi to try to make it out to safety. Doesn't have the Scuttle Crab in his favor though, so no extra movement speed, and he will get taken down. A nice little look from the side of G2.
And Duro dying there for the sins of his jungler. Canyon just, I imagine, just caught on the Raptor camp, caught off guard by the deep TP there from Broken Blade. Nicely done by G2, good punish. Immediately trade a kill back.
Good that they're able to find that return kill. SkewMond gets aggressive onto chovy. Chovy just now ticking over to level 6. A lot of resources from G2 leveraged to make sure the Caps can get a decent recall. Only has the tier thus far. Broken Blade. We have the classic awkward 80 carry versus top laner matchup, although Duro's finally here.
Ruler going to be looking for the cancel. And you see, Broken Blade has to play respectful because of the threat of Duro. Once he shows, should know that he is fine for now, as in he goes.
Duro, nice Hex Flash, good combo. Taunt is there, but he wanted to auto-attack anyway. Broken Blade a little bit tankier. Decent damage down onto Ruler. Now following up a quick flash out to safety. Cannot afford to get hit by that 4th shot. And he doesn't have perfect information. They've got good vision on the top side, but I don't think they've spotted Canyon, so he's just forced to recall. Might stick around, ends up being the right call. Confident enough that the vision means no one else is there, or it could have been a quick dive.
I think we also saw Caps already rotate over. Doesn't have the realm orb available, so maybe in case they do try and look for a redive, could have gone there before chovy did. Canyon maybe looking for some Krugs this time around. We do see Gen.G compared to the previous game. I think cleaning up the laning phase, but we do see G2 again playing very heavily towards these objectives, and with the swap that is in place, no shot that Gen.G is contesting this first Drake, so G2 going to take that one again. The fact that SkewMond also was the one that picked up a kill, I think pretty big deal. The Wukong snowballs insanely well when you can get these early kills. About to hit level 6, and what Gen.G get for their troubles is Krugs. Whereas G2 get a dragon. Going to be feeling good about that trade.
True. If they stick around topside, they will be first on the grub spawn. They already have their bot lane there, so likely the G2 will be a wave behind, may need to concede some minions if they do want to contest that objective, but it does feel a bit awkward. We saw how important Drake stacking was for G2 to find good fights, and it's not like they lack tools to force those same fights in this game too. But everything relatively quiet. Kiin, small gold lead. Ruler doing quite well given the kill. But for Hans Sama, of course, we know it's the scaling pick. Getting more souls, taking a bit more time. Much preferred to be laning against Kiin, where the range advantage meant that he could get some free souls. Here, it's a much tougher. Labrov will TP back to the top side, courtesy of that spell book. Hansam will be able to play a little bit more forward.
SkewMond.
Caps
on his way.
Trading. Waiting for Canyon.
Oh, I think they have suspicion with the way that Caps was moving. SkewMond has the ultimate available. Slight gold lead, but the bot lane just can't move.
Ruler.
Yeah, they're gonna...
Chovy committed to recalling, though.
Maybe look for one. Chovy does have TP.
Will TP in. G2 might just have to be happy with that as a consolation prize, but SkewMond's still sticking around, maybe hoping to find a steal. Hansama at least getting the souls. Nice engage coming in from Duro. Lock up there onto the Wukong. Chovy's ult goes in as well, and down goes SkewMond. Labrov caught in the midst of the pit. Hansama laying down a bit more shielding, and it looks like Vi will fall. Canyon spit over the wall. Taken out of the pit, Hansama. Waiting for the flash to come through. Root is there. Curtains called on Labrov, and down goes the Catfish. Feet of War claimed by the side of Gen.G alongside the Grubs, excuse me.
It's a flip of the fight that we saw in the first game. This time, G2 not quite ready for the engage. As Duro flash engages on top of the Wukong, doesn't get the time to actually clone, and yes, Broken Blade tries to keep him alive. They trade Canyon, but if your fight starts off like this, I think Gen.G, these level 6 spikes are absolutely devastating. You're a little bit more reliant on items as G2, as Labrov gets cooked as well. Big win there for Gen.G.
We saw the same head scratch from Chovy in game 1.
It's exactly the same, the head tilt as well.
Same head tilt, universal mid lane gesture. And I think this is concerning for the side of G2 because you can see that when they start to lose a fight, unlike the previous composition, they can't just overload with CC. And when you start to run from the Rumble Jhin comp, it's not going to go well for you.
Yeah, you can't really leave, unfortunately. As Jhin, never going to allow that. Now, this is another one of those games, I think arguably even more pronounced than the first game, where G2 does always have the promise of a late game that I think will be very hard to match for Gen.G. I do think Gen.G have the type of composition where if you ever get a pick, you can basically always be relevant, but it should get harder and harder as SkewMond and Canyon gonna meet. See if this leads to anything, but I think SkewMond not wanting to run the risk with Kiin having prio towards the top side of the map. But it's the mid game, right? It's now that these one-item spikes are being hit, Chovy has his Leandries, Ruler approaching his first item as well. The kills are going to help so much with accelerating those spikes for Gen.G. It's going to make contesting a lot harder. In the last game, we saw G2 doing a really good job of stacking those early Drakes. This next Drake fight, I think, is already going to be a tough ask. But really, it's the subsequent ones where we're going to have to see them find a way to not get blown up in that initial amount of burst that will come with the Vi, with the Aurora, and with the Jhin.
And while the Ryze does have the catalyst in the context of this matchup, it's not quite the same as the amount of lifesteal that Yone brings to bear. So, Caps can't just get those free trades. Chovy, much more tools to punish him if he sticks around too long. But still a scaling option, right? You got the tier, you got the catalyst. Still waiting on the Roa completion. Still waiting on magic resistance from the side of Broken Blade. But Youmuu's completed for Ruler. Matched by an item for Hans Sama, the static shiv to help clear out those waves. But again, outside of that brief moment on the top side, it's still been a relatively quiet game. 30 seconds on Mountain. Kiin has the push, in a better position to maneuver, but has no TP.
Broken Blade can either look for the TP, but obviously also being Galio has a much easier time getting to his teammates as fast as possible. You see Gen.G already taking control of Duro. Setting up vision, Ruler looking to push out, has his Youmuu's done. One-item spikes for the entirety of Gen.G, and then you look across the board. We do have now, that's a really big spike there for SkewMond. Thanks to the early kill, does get his Triforce. Caps isn't quite there yet though, and he doesn't have the TP available either, so we'll see if G2, I don't think they need to contest this Dragon. I think they can hang back, But it's looking with the positioning like they're going to take a bit of a gamble here. There's a
Actually,
TP.
a bold call, TP, Galio on the way in. Broken Blade probably immediately going to start channeling Taunt here. Locked up, beautiful CC layering, finds the Taunt into Duro. The stun kind of missing from the side of Ruler, doesn't connect the snare. Now the ulti from Chovy, G2 retreating. But they've effectively lost their top laner. And Canyon's just now arriving. The equalizer's still there, the curtain call there. They got 2 ultis, but not much else to show for it as the equalizer is laid down. Canyon rooted up for a moment. Labrov taken out. Gen.G in the extended fight play so well around their cooldowns.
And G2 knowingly taking a risk there with that TP. Instead of trying to go for a play elsewhere on the map, decide to contest. And we called it the risk before, and now they are in a much rougher spot. The lead for Gen.G starting to get bigger, 2K now, and the early dragon also going their way. And not only that, no flash and no TP on Broken Blade is going to give a big window for Kiin and Gen.G to make a play towards the Herald. Spawns in about a minute and a half, and Kiin already has had prio. Obviously, Broken Blade there was able to cheat that, make his way over, but that's not going to work on this Herald. And if mid lane starts falling as well, the possibility of G2 actually hitting these mid to late game either stack or item spikes on Caps and Hansama is going to be a distant dream.
It certainly is. And again, at this point, the solo laners, the Gen.G have very comfortable in those side lanes. The Vi is the potential setup as well for picks, along with the Jhin long range, can make things really tricky when it comes to these lane assignments for G2. For now, it is still Rumble versus Galio. Caps and Chovy matching each other wherever they can go, and Hansama, only 27 stacks in that fight. Oh, total damage dealt to champions. I think a lot of this is just, you can see Chovy repeatedly trading well into Caps.
Yeah, Leandri's also doing good amount of heavy lifting there, but Chovy also has been able to, as you highlight, be involved in almost all of the plays that Gen.G have found. Not necessarily the most impactful in the last fight, but it's 1-1 in Drakes. I do think that this is where G2 reaps the benefits of very early on, again, playing very heavily towards these Drakes. Ocean, though, I think can actually be a problem, particularly for G2, who, if you start falling behind the mid game, the enemy starts stacking a lot of Ocean Drakes, and you are not able to get the most out of this trio in jungle. Mid and AD carry could be tough as Canyon looking for a play towards mid. Again, Herald is up. That's going to be what the teams are playing for.
Q flash clean from Canyon. Hansama's got nowhere to go. Duro not even needed. Nice little mechanical play there from Canyon. And you talked about it. If Gen.G have that lead, they have that lead. Almost 3,000 up. Finding that pick in the mid lane means they're going to have first access to this Herald. And Labrov not on the recon. He has to be careful about base checking. Can't just get caught out here.
Yeah, and they are going to let this one go. As we can see, not really any cross map available, unfortunately. See if they can turn it maybe into a little bit of vision towards the dragon. SkewMond walking off.
Finding Duro. Labrov making sure he can get out, but knocked backwards. Good use of the Abyssal Dive to make it to safety. But again, there was no counterplay anywhere else on the map. Gen.G get the Herald effectively uncontested on top of the pick on Hansama in the mid lane, extending their gold lead even further.
Oh god, that was a big grenade that found Hans. And Labrov using the ult, I think the right call there. If there was a dragon in instead of a minute 50 now, or in a minute from now, could be an angle, but that's going to be available once the next fight rolls around. But G2, in the last fight, not able to actually get into a position to really threaten the Gen.G backline. The TP from Broken Blade was nicely collapsed on by Gen.G. And now 2 item spikes are approaching for some of the members. See Chovy, second mask picked up. Ruler with the biggest individual gold lead on this Jhin.
It's a terrifying situation when the early rapid fire cannon comes through and you can just start taking 30% for free every time you walk up in a trade. Also, when you have your support there and you still can't step into the Jhin.
Oh, Canyon. Gonna be found.
Caps just zooms out to safety, wants nothing to do with that.
That is Canyon showing though, so G2 could be looking for a play on Kiin.
SkewMond faking.
I love the deft.
Little S juke. Brav on the way down too. Can reset the tower aggro, but the wave will just get deleted.
big thing here is that Duro is there. So the moment they spot him, I think you can see they call off the play. Don't want to do that when an Alistar is there. Could completely turn it around. Ooh, this is a possibility to play towards mid. The top wave is getting demolished, and chovy's going to get the free turret.
And what we have to remember in this context is Caps saw initially Canyon. He has not seen him since. Canyon not sloppy about showing on vision, did his due diligence. So Caps, if he steps up there and Canyon is there, he dies immediately. He has to play with that fear, he has to play with that caution. And Canyon just backing in a bush earns Gen.G a free tower.
SkewMond trying to get in the opponent's heads continuously as we do have the Herald being dropped.
G2 running forward. They see chovy on the top side. They're not concerned. Excellent combo to kick things off. Equalizer follows. Caps off to the side. He's been isolated and really looking to follow. Labrov resets the fight with the Devour. Gets a bit more space, but Gen.G have already taken the tower, and now it's chovy chasing through. Duro looking for another combo! The Alistar finding the angle, but they're only hitting the tankiest members. Caps still stepping forward, looking for a bit more damage, but now the curtains have been called. Body block there. Labrov getting low. SkewMond covering. G2 holding on for now, but they've lost priority. No!
Oh!
Ruler! Patience in the Gen.G logo!
OTP, DTP, look at the flank!
G2 trying to throw a Hail Mary here.
It's two of them.
Gen.G committed so much to the midway play, trying to get Drake, might be greedy, but G2, do they have the damage to punish? Chovy locked up. Root there, he doesn't have the ulti to escape. SkewMond now trying to get out. Kiin burning everybody! The Rumble alive! Ruler's only got 2 more shots! But it might not matter. One more bullet to come through. The root connecting. Ruler so damn fast. Chovy alive as well. G2 crumble!
And G2 go for the Hail Mary, the double TP. But it doesn't quite work out. Gen.G, despite using so many tools, it feels like initially maybe too many on that mid lane players. Oh, Ruler.
Missile Voyage there. Q, Auto.
Woo! 1,000 gold!
Yum, 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 yum.
That is a sated Kench, and that's not something we say often.
No. I wasn't particularly hungry for Heartsteel for this team, but hey, you get it a little sooner. A lot sooner.
Think of the dopamine, Drakos.
That is maximum dopamine, just like that combo.
As we do see, as you highlight, Duro able to get a great combo together with Kiin. And G2 trying to play for the disengage. I think the same way they did in game number 1. Duro goes in, but the damage isn't quite there. I think a little split, the rest of his team will also need to respect the CC that is available. But it's when the Jhin gets the setup without any issues.
And the snipe here is disgusting.
Yeah. Clone and everything not enough. As Ruler with a deadly flourish finds him. That we've all been there.
Oh.
Jhin W in particular can be such a tricky one to block as well, because you see with the Jhin shots, I think generally teams are able to, but that W.
That's tough. And you can see Labrov frustrated with himself. A lot of pressure. You found game 1. Ramon talked about it, trying to keep that attitude. Hey, we're not expected to win anything. But once you win that first game, it can start to slip away. You start to wonder, what if we can go further? And now Labrov with a lot of kill gold. That is as production is highlighting here, that is a sated Kench coin paste gold grind, as Q just barely not going to hit, but now it's Hansama who's been locked up. Hansama who's getting picked in mid lane. Duro taking his sweet time trying to find more. Chovy is there. G2 just wanted a couple creeps, and it might cost them their lives. This time they're playing it safe though. Ruler, you know he's thinking about it. One more deadly flourish, perhaps. Will walk away. Doesn't have the info, doesn't have the ward over the wall this time, so not just going to waste the cooldown. But that's disastrous for G2. Again, in the fights, we've seen Gen.G are playing better, but also they're catching G2 in the setup. In the steps that are just supposed to be pushed away before we do the thing. They're able to find those little advantages.
There's also Gen.G in their comfort zone, right? They have a really good level of control towards the top side, so they can just keep chain starting Atakan. Hans also almost getting caught in the rural spot there, and they do have the tools to keep him alive, obviously, with that Kench, with the safety that someone like Broken Blade can provide as well. But even look at the jungle, they just can't go anywhere. They can't clear these waves.
Gen.G are setting up 2 picks at the same time. Ruler and Canyon. Gen.G with that ward in the river spotted so many members.
Oh, Caps.
Should be fine. Forced to flash out. Gen.G happy with just that cooldown. And again, the vision control. They spotted Hans, they spotted SkewMond on that single ward, and it gave them everything they needed to make these plays.
Response from G2 is good though towards the top side of the map. We now see that Labrov, together with SkewMond, is able to regain a semblance of control, setting up some vision here, trying to ensure that this Otacon, which surely is going to be the next objective, unless Gen.G want to play more heavily towards that possible soul point on Ocean Drake, it's going to be found. But now Gen.G making their way back over. And again, G2, we always talk about what is the stack situation, and I have bad news. I don't know if you've taken a gander yet, but Senna just now getting close to 50, not where you want to be.
Not at all. And it's the struggle of this game, right? Senna, a champion where if you have a lead, if you're playing against a melee support, you feel so good, you rapidly stack up, you can follow your jungler around, but Hans has just been forced to catch these waves. Hasn't been getting much of anything.
Should be getting close towards hitting both the level 15, and then with the next stack, or the final stack rather, of that Rod of Ages to take over, hit 16, but the Ryze alone, I think still is going to need a lot more items, and I don't know if Gen.G is going to give them time. We're going to need to see G2 maybe get a similar setup like the one that they found at the Otacon last time around, because Gen.G is going to start it. Can they get on top of multiple members of Gen.G, like Caps did many times in the game number 1?
G2 are behind in items. They're 5,000 gold down. Kiin finding himself in the midst of 3. CC there, SkewMond about to follow, tries to get out before he gets burnt to death. Devour from Labrov. But it's Otacon in the meantime, an easy pickup for Gen.G. Happy to make the trade, 1 member. The power of that buff.
Chovy gonna be spotting Broken Blade. Bit of a questionable flash there from Kiin, given that there's a Tahm Kench standing right next to the target. Trying to burn is Canyon.
Canyon overstaying a bit here, but Ruler waiting behind. Ruler with almost 3 items ready to go. Look at the damage coming through, but Hans still living for an extra moment. Flash forward from Ruler. Hits his mark, finds his man. Chovy going face first in the caps is a bit difficult. The damage is there from the Ryze, but Ruler remains uncontested. 4th shot. A brief moment to reload. Realm Warp in. Wukong delivered. But Broken Blade out of mana. They can't find the engage, and out comes the ulti. It's Chovy on the side. Getting shot like fish in the barrel. Duro to follow through. Ruler, uncontested. Chovy dishing out so much damage. SkewMond tries to get something back. He has an extra moment, but the knockup is there from Duro, and down he goes.
And G2 identify a moment of weakness. Kiin goes down. Maybe this is the opportunity to get back in this game. Deny the soul point. Gen.G obviously invest everything towards the top side of the map, but doesn't look like it's going to be working out. Well, the Heartsteel stack is secured, but I think Labrov would rather have his flash. At least he has the spellbook. As Ruler taking business into his own hands in this game number 2.
And look at the difference in a game where Gen.G have equivalent tools to G2. Ways to start fights. Ways to fight on their terms.
And this call, I think, is made because Labrov doesn't have the ultimate available, right? So immediately they come through. Really good job splitting up the fight here. And if Broken Blade and Labrov are standing guard, they can stall for a good amount of time. But the fact that Chovy gets into the backline and chunks caps means that he can't do the damage, and the rest of his teammates won't really be able to do it without him. And then here, the slight overchase with that Realm Warp. Otherwise, I think they can back off, maybe look for a recontest. But into Jhin in particular, you just don't get to do that as Duro finds the free-man combo. But I think at that point, the fight already done, right? The moment that Jhin ult comes down, I don't think there's any getting out. As a right chuckle there from Ruler. This game is going to be a lot more happy. He's again a pick.
Again, looking for the option onto Duro. They get the ulti, 2-man knockup. Ruler forced to back away. Lock into the Iron Solar he used. Duro will fall.
Oh, you got to pull the trigger on Nash, I imagine.
I mean, they got the Ryze. They can shred it so quickly. But their waves aren't in a good state. The threat of an equalizer in the pit.
I mean, I don't think it's great, but looks like they don't want to take the risk either.
Chovy.
Maybe trusting in the Hans.
No getting out of this one. Chovy, damage coming through. Broken Blade wants to save the day, but Ruler just cannot miss in this game. SkewMond called out, knocked down, fakes the stealth, but Canyon's not falling for it. Knock up there on Ruler, maybe it can be the turning factor. It's all eyes on Caps. Caps who has to do the damage. Caps who cannot afford to be burnt down by Kiin. Labrov buys him an extra moment, but Canyon's already there. Caps running for his life, but it's just not enough. Because in the midst of the fight, it is Ruler free firing.
He died once! 12-1 on the Jhin, despite the attention paid in G2. Try and look for any way to claw back into this game, but GenG not giving it to them. Ruler's positioning in these fights, the triple item spike, that IE hurts like a truck, Drakos.
It's just so much damage. Armor penetration not really even there outside of the baseline lethality coming in from the Yomus. Baron now as well on a team with the Rumble and the Jhin. G2 want time. They want stacks, and they need space to do it. And I don't think it's space that Gen.G are going to give them.
As this play starts off with Hans getting caught, only level 13. And they do immediately turn onto chovy. With SkewMond already getting blown up, no value. I think they really needed the Cyclone, because if they have a little more damage here to get on top of Ruler, actually CC him, that might have been the difference maker. If they get him, it could be something, but instead...
Another fight. Equalizer from Kiin to kick things off. Long range route coming in from Ruler. Follow up from Duro. Broken Blade locked up. Goes Golden. Labrov, 2 seconds on the ulti. Can try to save him, but if you use that ulti, you know it's easy pickings for Canyon in the next fight. Caps on the side.
Chovy's pushing.
Yeah, chovy is pushing. It's just 4 members. Chovy denying so much gold. Set to get this tower for free. The 3 grubs they secured earlier in the game, but G2 know they need a Hail Mary. They need a desperation play. Flash forward from Caps. Root onto Ruler. Lockup coming in from Hansama. He might be vulnerable on the backside, but all that matters is killing this AD carry. G2 find their man, but now it's chovy in the fight. Chovy who deletes Hansama. Canyon follow-up. Duro there as well, trying to lock down the Ryze. Kiin gonna follow up as well. Caps, not enough room to play, but the taunt from Broken Blade is big. He's burning in the midst of it all, though. And again, it is Gen.G who will not falter. And chovy with the quadra.
And G2 with the TP, with the Realm Warp, they do find a Ruler, but unfortunately the game has destabilized to the point where it just doesn't matter. Kiin is toasting them 10 stacks dark, still same for chovy, who does join, seeing his AD carry fall. There's just too much AoE damage available here for Gen.G as the Inhibits falls, and we're about to go to 1-1 here, Drakos.
That we are. Gen.G taking their time with it. Don't want to risk giving thing up. Potentially giving a chance for G2 to come back. 13K, a confident victory lap in this game too from Gen.G, and you mentioned it before. Feels like 15 minutes ago G2 threw that first Hail Mary. They've been praying ever since. Well, they found 1 or 2 angles. It's Gen.G with the picks, the better setup, and we're reminded what this team can do when they have that advantage. And the numbers kind of just speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, we see Ruler, despite the fact that sometimes Jhin...
He took that Boris damage stat from last game personally.
Yeah. Really did.
Doesn't even have Penny, just went shield bow.
Yeah.
Respect.
Broken Blade, unfortunately, still not able to really take too much of a beating because of the state of the gold. Now Gen.G, 2 inhibs down. Certainly just looking to end this one with as little opportunity as possible. And for G2, Caps does have Death Cap. If he can get a couple of rotations off, maybe that's something they can play towards, but everyone just goes down so quickly. These items on Gen.G just hurt too much.
That they do. Ocean Soul now as well, making it that much easier. A little bit of poke from Ruler can heal him back up from anything that G2 can throw back at him. And it's Canyon waiting off to the side. Happy to trade his ultimate for Labrov's if he needs to. Equalizer used. Gen.G immediately pull the trigger, finding multiple members. The ults are beautiful, but it's Broken Blade with a 3-man knockup. Hansama for now uncontested. Caps burned down again. The curtain call coming in. Ruler untouched, undaunted, unfazed by a single loss. Gen.G, one final moment, taking their time. SkewMond desperately trying to make the difference, but the base in tatters in front of them. Gen.G fire back in game 2 and tie the series.
And Ruler, definitely been one of the most criticized members on his team, but in this one, I don't think there's going to be a lot of ammo because that Jhin performance, absolutely ludicrous. Duro as well, the Alistar, proving both as a pick away as well as a bona fide team fight tool. And G2, that dream of scaling was, I think, dashed pretty quickly. As unfortunately for G2, 1-1, but that means we still have a possible 3 games left, Drakos.
Possibly. But
I'd like to believe.
I think they might have awoken the beast. Shocks, analysts, what do you guys think?